Want to know how I created this fabric pattern in Substance Designer? Let's begin with the ornament pattern, which will serve as a mask for our fabric. The idea here is simple. The mask should be white, where we want the ornament to appear, and black, where it should stay hidden. If it's the other way around, we can always invert it using the invert node. There are two main approaches to creating this mask, each with its own advantages and drawbacks. Using shapes, warps, and 2D transforms, we can generate our own ornament mask from scratch within Substance Designer. The advantage of this method is that we can make changes at any point in the process and iterate quickly. However, the drawback is that it takes significantly more time to build the ornament from the ground up. And let's be honest, not everything has to be procedural. If we can get the ornament right the first time, iteration becomes unnecessary. A faster and often more efficient approach is to import a bitmap into your graph. You can create your design in Illustrator, Photoshop, or any other software of your choice. I personally love this workflow because it allows for non-destructive editing. You can export multiple masks using layer systems and tweak them as needed. If you don't want to draw the mask by hand, you can always find a suitable ornament design online. What I usually do is download a vector ornament, make some refinements in Illustrator, and then export it as a bitmap for use in Substance Designer. This approach saves time while still allowing customization. Since the procedural method requires building the ornament from scratch, we need to break our design into segments, which we will later combine to form the final pattern. Instead of creating the entire pattern at once, we'll work on one half and mirror it once satisfied with the result. To start, add a Spline polyquadratic node. By default, it has 4 points. These define the shape of our ornament. Move these points to start forming your design. This node will have 4 output pins. If you drag one of them, all will automatically follow the cursor. However, if only one follows, you can change it from standard to material by going to link creation mode and selecting material. Next, add a scatter on spline grayscale node to the spline node, set shape spacing to 0, and change the size mode to use thickness from spline. Double-click on the scatter on spline node to view it in 2D, and single-click on the spline node to modify thickness and reposition points. Increase the points amount slider if needed to add more points for intricate designs. This will allow for more control over the ornament structure, enabling finer adjustments and variations. Now you can change the thickness of the points in the points properties. Each point has its own individual settings, allowing you to modify attributes such as smoothness to make the shape sharper or smoother along the curves. Experimenting with these settings will help create unique and intricate shapes tailored to your design. If you want 2 different shapes, simply duplicate the spline node and reattach it between the original spline and scatter on spline nodes. Now, you can move the points of the duplicated spline node and the pattern will appear dynamically. Try experimenting with different shapes to introduce variety into your design. You can add multiple shapes to achieve more complex results by layering them strategically and fine-tuning their alignment. This allows for the creation of intricate, visually engaging patterns that can be easily adjusted at any stage of the process. This is particularly useful for adding details and layering elements within the ornament pattern. Once one segment is complete, move on to the next by creating another spline and scatter on spline node, or simply duplicate the previous ones and modify them. You will have multiple segments, so you have the freedom to decide how you want to divide and merge them. Use the Transform 2D node to precisely position each pattern piece. And don't forget to change the tiling mode by changing the method of inheritance to absolute. Then setting the mode to no tiling to prevent the pattern from repeating unintentionally. Now blend them seamlessly using the Blend node with Add Linear Dodge mode. Additionally, fine-tune the placement and scale of individual components by adding a Transform 2D node wherever required to ensure a cohesive design. By carefully layering and aligning each segment, you can maintain consistency while introducing intricate variations that enhance the overall ornament pattern. Finally, add a mirror node to reflect the pattern across the x-axis, ensuring perfect symmetry. You can change the x-axis offset to adjust the pattern's position, and you can also add a transform 2D node before the mirror node to scale it down and position it accordingly. This method may take longer, but it provides flexibility. Any change made to the nodes will instantly update the designs, allowing for non-destructive adjustments and refinements throughout the creative process. What I am doing here is creating multiple segments of the design and blending them together to form the final pattern. This workflow includes multiple transform 2D nodes and blend nodes for future refinements. By carefully layering and combining these elements, I can build a complex and intricate design that remains fully editable at every stage. This method allows me to experiment with different shapes, patterns, and variations. After achieving the final result, if I am not satisfied with any part of the design, I can simply go back to its connected node and make the necessary changes to get the desired outcome. I can also fine-tune details such as symmetry, spacing, and alignment by tweaking individual nodes without disrupting the overall composition. This workflow is incredibly helpful if you want to make multiple iterations of the design in the future. It also ensures that the final ornament seamlessly integrates with the fabric pattern, providing full control over the creation process. If procedural creation seems too time-consuming, the alternative is much simpler. Draw a vector ornament in Illustrator or any preferred software and export it as an image. Drag and drop the image into your Substance Designer graph and choose Import instead of linking the resource. And that's it! We now have our ornament design ready to be integrated into our fabric design. That's it for today's video. Don't forget to experiment with different settings and values to create unique results. In the next video, we will take this bitmap and integrate it into our fabric design. See you in the next one.